The place I go when I sleep. Every night, just after my eyes close and the weight of the world fades from my shoulders, I slip into a place I can only call dreamland. I don't know how I get there. It never begins the same way twice, but I always recognize it the moment I arrive. It doesn't look like Earth. Not quite. The sky shifts colors like silk and water. Deep purples, soft ambers, glimmers of green that hum when you look at them too long. There are two moons, one high and still, the other drifting lazily across the horizon like a child's balloon. Trees grow upside down, roots in the sky, and the rivers hum songs only your heart can understand. There's a path I always find, made of pale stones that glow faintly under my feet. The path winds through fields of silver grass that sway even without wind. I never question where I'm going. In dreamland, questions fall away like old coats. Sometimes I pass strange creatures, a fox with feathers instead of fur, a cat that floats 3 inches above the ground. They look at me and nod as though we've met before. Maybe we have. I don't remember everything when I wake up, and that feels okay. There's a tree in the center of dreamland, enormous. Its trunk is wider than a house, and its leaves shimmer like polished mirrors. I always sit there beneath its shade. It smells like comfort, like every memory of warmth I've ever had. And that's when the voices come. Not spoken voices, but memories. My grandfather's laugh, my mother humming in the kitchen, a friend I lost too soon, telling a joke I thought I'd forgotten. Dreamland gives them back to me, soft and without sorrow. Here I am weightless. There's no time, no regret, no worry about tomorrow's clock or yesterday's mistakes. I always leave too soon. The first hint of waking is a breeze that smells like the sun, and a bell that chimes far off in the distance. That's how I know it's time to go. I never say goodbye. Dreamland doesn't need goodbyes. It will be there again, waiting. So now, as I lay my head down, I feel the pull, soft like the tug of a toad, and I know soon I'll be walking that path again. The garden where time sleeps. I don't remember where the trail started, only that Jonas and I were walking for what felt like hours. Yantas into a forest so old the trees had no memory of ever being young. The sky grew dim behind thick branches, and the hush of the world around us settled like dust in the lungs. We said little, not out of fear, but because the quiet asked to be respected. It was the kind of silence you don't want to wake. We weren't lost. Not exactly. The woods simply kept going. The deeper we went, the slower we moved, like walking through a dream half remembered. I started to think we might come out the other side, blinking into sunlight. But then we saw it. The garden. It wasn't marked by fences or walls. It just began, suddenly, impossibly, on the other side of a veil of ivy. A round clearing ringed by pale birches and roses, so thick on the bushes they seemed to bloom forever. The air shimmered with gold, like sunbeams caught in honey. We stepped inside, and I felt something in me exhale. There was no wind, but the leaves trembled as if sighing with relief. The silence here was different. Not empty, but full of something watching, waiting. The grass was soft underfoot, warm like summer linen. A faint scent of jasmine and earth drifted on the air. We wandered among marble statues, in strange poses, men and women mid-speech, children mid-laughter. Their faces looked so real I thought one might blink. At the center of the garden sat a wooden chest, old but whole. It wasn't hidden or locked. It simply rested there, expectant. We hesitated. Then Jonas touched the lid, and it gave way easily without a sound. Inside was no treasure, no dust, no decay. Just a mirror, round and dark like a pool of ink. It didn't show our reflections. It showed the garden, the very same one we stood in. But something was different. The statues were gone. The flowers wilted, and in our place were 2 new statues. Us. I looked at Jonas. He didn't move. I tried to speak, to laugh it off. My voice caught. The air around us grew thicker, the light dimmer. I felt slow, so very tired. My limbs were heavy with drowsiness, like slipping into a warm bath. Then I heard it, a distant ticking, soft as a lullaby. Time itself winding down. Jonas reached for my hand. His fingers were warm, trembling. "We shouldn't have opened it," he whispered. I wanted to run, but my legs no longer listened. The garden was sinking into me, or I into it. My last thoughts are not of fear, only stillness, only the hush of leaves in a timeless place. And somewhere, far above, the forest continues. If you walk long enough, you may find it too, the garden where time sleeps. Just don't open the chest, the lantern in the window. I'd forgotten what kindness looked like. After my father passed, the world turned dim. I moved to a small village at the edge of the sea, where the air was always damp and salt clung to everything like sorrow. I didn't talk to the neighbors, didn't answer the door. I woke, I worked, I slept, day after day. Grief is not a storm, it's fog. You can live years inside it without realizing how far you've drifted. Then, one evening, something changed. It was raining, soft, steady, the kind that fills the silence more than breaks it. I was walking home from the grocer, head down, coat soaked through, when I passed the little cottage on the corner. It always had flowers in the window, though I never saw who lived there. That night, a lantern was lit in the window. It was simple, brass framed. The glass fogged slightly from the warmth inside. But there was something about it. It didn't flicker like a candle or glow like a bulb. It pulsed gently like a heartbeat, like someone saying, "You're not alone." I stopped and stared for a long time, maybe too long because the door opened. A woman stepped out. She was older than me, wrapped in a knitted shawl with a smile that didn't ask anything of me. She looked at my soaked bag and said only, "Come in and dry off, love." "I've got tea on." I almost said no. Almost walked away like I always did, but something in me cracked open quietly, without pain, and I nodded. Inside was warmth I hadn't felt in years. Tea with honey. Stories about her garden, the rain, her cat who never came home but still had a bowl by the fireplace. She didn't ask about my past. She only gave me a seat, a smile, and the silence to exist in peace. I returned every Thursday after that. Sometimes we spoke, sometimes we didn't. But she always had the lantern lit in the window, as if to say, "You are welcome here." One night, I brought her a cake I had made, just a little thing. She looked at it like it was treasure. That was the night I cried, quietly, into my tea, and she didn't say anything, just patted my hand. Years later, after she passed, the house went quiet, but I kept the lantern. I placed it in my own window. Every evening, without fail, I light it. A few times, I've noticed people slowing down as they walk past. I never force it, but every now and then someone knocks. A young man soaked by the rain, a girl with swollen eyes, a stranger who just needs to sit in the quiet and remember what it means to be seen. One act of kindness. That's all it took. The fog still rolls in sometimes, but now I light the lantern, just in case someone needs to find their way back home. The Garden of Forgotten Wishes. When the city's noise becomes too much, when the rush of days and the weight of expectations press so heavily on my chest that I can hardly breathe, I find my way to a small, hidden garden. No one knows exactly how I discovered it, not even me. It's tucked between two tall brick buildings, a sliver of green hidden from the world, like a secret held in the palm of a giant's hand. The entrance is a wrought iron gate, rusted and tangled with ivy, always slightly open as if inviting those who need it most. The first time I stepped inside, I was surprised by how still the air was, thick with the scent of moss, earth, and something faintly sweet, like the memory of rain on warm stone. The garden was small, maybe no bigger than a city park bench, but it held a calm unlike any place I'd ever known. It was filled with strange flowers, some the color of twilight, others shimmering faintly as if dusted with stardust. But the most remarkable thing was the tree in the center. Its bark was silver, its leaves a deep green that seemed to glow faintly even in the softest light. And hanging from its branches were tiny glass jars, hundreds of them, each sealed with a cork and containing a rolled-up piece of paper. Curiosity pulled me closer. I reached out and carefully unsealed one jar. Inside was a note, handwritten in delicate script. I wish for courage to speak my truth. I closed the jar gently and looked around. Every jar held a wish, a hope someone had forgotten, or perhaps never dared to speak aloud. For days I returned. Sometimes I added my own jar, a secret wish I hadn't told a soul. Other times I just sat beneath the tree and read the wishes, feeling the weight of each one. Some were simple, a wish for a friend, a lost love, a quiet day. Others were heavier, full of pain and longing. One afternoon, as the sun dipped low and the garden was painted golden, a woman appeared. She was quiet, with eyes that held the same calm as the garden itself. "You've been coming here often," she said softly. "I didn't know anyone else knew about this place," I replied. She smiled. "It's not about knowing, it's about needing. The garden finds those who carry wishes too heavy to hold alone." We talked until the sky turned indigo and the first stars appeared. She told me that the garden was a place where forgotten hopes could rest, gather strength, and sometimes, just sometimes, find their way into the world. "The jars are not just wishes," she said. "They are seeds, seeds of change, waiting for the right time to grow." When I left that night, the garden felt alive in a new way. I understood that every wish, spoken or silent, had power. That kindness to ourselves, even in the form of a whispered hope, could change the course of a life. And in the quiet between heartbeats, I made a promise to tend my own garden of wishes, with patience, with love, and with trust that every small hope is a seed waiting to bloom. The watchmaker's promise. My grandfather was the watchmaker. Not the kind who changed batteries or adjusted straps, but the kind who could take apart a pocket watch with trembling hands and reassemble it so precisely it ticked smoother than before. As a child, I loved to sit in his workshop, surrounded by the scent of oil and old wood, watching the gears spin under his fingers. He always worked in silence, except for one habit. He spoke to the watches, softly, gently, as if the watches had ears and hearts. "They don't just measure time," he once told me. They hold it. A little piece of it tucked into every gear. People think they own time, but time owns us. The watch only helps you make peace with that. At the time, I didn't understand. I just liked the way the ticking filled the room like a heartbeat. When he passed, he left behind his favorite creation, a silver pocket watch that had no numbers, just a black face and two thin hands of gold. I kept it on my desk for years, untouched. It never ticked again after he died, until one evening I was tired. Life had worn me down in quiet, unspectacular ways. Too many regrets, not enough stillness. I sat at the desk, thinking of him, of how time slipped through us like light through cracks. I picked up the watch, and it ticked, softly once, then again. The hands moved, but not forward. They turned backward, slow and steady. The room around me blurred at the edges. I blinked, and when I opened my eyes, I was sitting in his workshop. He was there, smiling, surrounded by light and warmth and the endless ticking of gentle machines. "I saved a little time for you," he said, "just one moment. Enough to remember that peace doesn't come from controlling time. It comes from honoring it." We didn't talk much, just sat, watched the gears, shared the silence. When I woke, the watch was still ticking backward just for a while before stopping again. Now, I keep it beside my bed. Some nights when the world is too loud, I wind it once, just to feel the tick, just to hear the promise he left behind.